Welcome to this video on Genesis chapter 1 in Esperanto, as translated by L.L. Zamenhof. We will explore the journey of the text from the original Hebrew through the 1911 Hachette edition to the 1926 London Bible. When translating the Hebrew Bible into Esperanto, Zamenhof faced a central challenge. How should we treat Hebrew characteristics, and what should Esperanto do instead? This illustrates that translation is not just a mechanical word-for-word replacement. We approach this by distinguishing two paths. First, the translational transformation between the Hebrew text and the 1911 edition. Second, the historical transmission process from 1911 through a 1915 intermediate stage to the 1926 London Bible. How did the Genesis translation reach its audience? It began with Zamenhof's manuscript work, moved through the literary and public medium of La Revue starting in 1906, and finally to the Hachette publishing house in Paris in 1911. After Zamenhof's death in 1917, the work entered a new phase. From 1919, the British Bible Committee took over the revision and harmonization, culminating in the 1926 London Bible edition. What happens to a Hebrew feature in translation? We categorize the transformation as either preserved, interpreted, lost, or gained. These are not value judgments, but rather descriptive categories for the translation process. To maintain rigor, we use two classification systems. One tracks the evidential status of our claims, while the other identifies the structural type of the translational transformation performed by Zamenhof. Looking at the Hebrew verb bārāʻ, translated as kreis, we see both preservation and loss. The verbal basis is preserved, while specific lexical distribution and verb morphology are lost in the transition to Esperanto. Consider the Hebrew term rûaḥ, which has a broad semantic field. Zamenhof chose spirito for the 1911 edition. This is an interpreted transformation, where a specific meaning is selected from the available range. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, the Hebrew plural form naʿăśeh is rendered as nikreu. Here, the plural category is preserved, demonstrating that Zamenhof's translation maintains this specific morphological feature. While the plural is preserved, the interpretation of the we in nikreu remains an open hermeneutic question. The grammar tells us it is plural, but the reference requires further contextual analysis. Esperanto allows for intertextual coherence. By linking Hebrew pairs like zākār/nəqēબાh and naḥăśeh to the consistent Esperanto structure of viro/virino, Zamenhof creates a new, coherent lexical system across the creation narratives. Ultimately, Zamenhof shows that translation is the reconstruction of textual relationships. Esperanto is not merely a medium. Its structure serves as an essential tool for maintaining these complex intertextual connections. Finally, how stable was the text between 1911 and 1926? A collation of 31 verses shows a remarkable 93.5% stability, with only 2 lexical changes, highlighting the consistency of the translated text over that period. While we see a shift in Genesis chapter 1 verse 2 from sin portus in 1911 to svebis in 1926, the absence of the 1915 intermediate text leaves the exact origin of this change open to hypothesis. This video summarizes the deep structural transformation alongside the strong stability observed in the Esperanto translation. It distinguishes between the linguistic comparison of two systems and the historical evolution of the text. We see 2 primary paths: the translation route comparing Hebrew with the 1911 edition, and the transmission route tracking the text from 1911 through the 1915 manuscript to the 1926 London edition. The findings are clear. Zamenhof does not just translate words, he translates the deep relationships within the text. Despite significant structural transformation, the London edition maintains a high degree of lexical stability. Our research relies on a solid bibliography, including the Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia, Zamenhof's 1911 edition, and the 1926 revision. We also engage with key academic literature in linguistics and translation studies. This analysis is part of a larger 15-language project. The core methodologies, including the comparative approach and the structural evaluation of Zamenhof's work, remain consistent across all versions of this presentation. Thank you for watching this presentation on the Genesis translation by L.L. Zamenhof. We hope this exploration of the text's journey and structural depth has provided valuable insight into the translator's art.